Hi, I'm Matt Carter. I'm the Research Director for the Major Projects Foundation, and today I want to give you a bit of an overview about one of the shipwrecks that's on our list of potentially polluting wrecks, which are a real concern in the Pacific. So where we're going today is we're heading to the Federated States of Micronesia to a place called Chuuk Lagoon. Now, in 1944, the Americans attacked the lagoon and sunk between 65 and 75 Japanese ships. This area is known as some of the best wreck diving in the world, but the problem is that at least 17 of these are actually potentially polluting. They contain oil and are going to break up and leak in the very near future. So the particular wreck we're looking at today is called the Rio de Janeiro Maru, and we've got a picture here from when it was in service in the 1930s. It's really quite a large vessel, over 130 metres long. Today it's lying on its side, and it's a real pollution risk. It has leaked oil in the past, just small spills, but that oil's washed up into the mangroves and some of the adjacent islands. So it has done a lot of damage even for small spills at the moment. What we're looking at is potentially a much larger spill in the future with increasing severe weather in the area due to climate change. This wreck will break up, and there is potential for quite a large spill which could do really quite considerable damage in the enclosed waters of the lagoon, but also into those mangroves which are particularly susceptible to damage from oil spills. At the Major Projects Foundation, our mission is to remove the risk that these wrecks pose to the Pacific. And for a start, that involves finding out as much information as we can about these shipwrecks, and that way we can start putting plans into action to reduce the risk for a start, working towards removing it. So with the Rio, we've got the multi-beam data of the wreck, which shows its condition when the multi-beam was taken, and we can start getting an idea of its condition at that moment in time. And from this you can see it's completely intact. It has had some damage at the bow, but overall it's in pretty good shape, which suggests to us that a lot of the oil tanks, a lot of the fuel tanks will still be intact within the hull, so therefore it potentially has a whole lot of oil in it. So that level of information is really good, but we wanted to get more information so we can be more specific about the condition of the ship. Now, when I was up in Chuuk Lagoon in June last year, we did some dives on the wreck, and we created a photogrammetry 3D model of the wreck, which is what you can see here. And this allows us to get a lot more detail of the wreck and start getting a better idea of that condition of it. And as you can see here, a lot more detailed than the multi-beam, and it can start giving us some really good ideas about estimating that the condition of the tanks within it. So with that information, we can start writing things like disaster risk reduction strategies. So we can say, okay, we know where the wreck is, we can estimate how much oil it is, and give this information to the Chuukese authorities so they can start planning around a spill in the short term. So that is that kind of short-term risk reduction, but we want to move further than that and go into removing the risk completely. And this is a whole kind of extension of this work. Now, fortunately, with the Rio, we also have the builder's plans. Now, as you can see here, these are really quite rare when it comes to Japanese merchant vessels, so to have this is an incredibly useful resource for us. And what we can actually see on the plans is the exact location of the fuel tanks. So what we can do moving forward is actually overlay these plans over the 3D model so we can find out exactly where those tanks are on that model, and we can start putting together plans on how we could actually remove that oil by drilling through the hull and pumping out the oil to completely remove that risk. So that's the end goal. The idea is to remove the oil, of course with the blessings and permission of the Chuukese authorities. So that's what we can do, but in the short term we can give them that information to be able to reduce the risk that an oil spill from this wreck will have. So we're making progress.